Frati Radio, this is Chiara Nicoletti from the 19th edition Rome Film Fest. I'm happy to be with John Crowley, who's here to present We Live in Time. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
I was reading a review from The Guardian, and he said that you had found a way to breathe life into a film about death. So I'm asking you, isn't it a celebration of life instead, this film?
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. But I think the point that journalist was making, which is true, is that it is a story about two people trying to figure out the best and most meaningful way of spending their time when that time has been shortened. So that's really what it's about, rather than a portrait of somebody declining physically or becoming ill. You know, it's about what happens in a very truthful, loving relationship that's about to be cut short.
What I felt that made a difference with this film is that it depicts a great love story where we can easily identify into both parts. I mean, for example, the portrait of this woman really cares about being a wife, being a mother, but also cares a lot about a professional life. And this is something that we all correlate to, and I have to say it's kind of reliving a revolutionary in a way. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering if that was one of the keys that you paid attention on and you focused on.
It's true. I think it's one of the things I loved about the script is that it feels very contemporary and something that a lot of people I know can relate to. And that it's not just about Almut's character also. What's rather interesting, especially in the hands of Andrew's portrayal of Tobias, is that you also have a male character there who is at ease with not being the main breadwinner or the main sort of career person in the family. You know, he's with somebody. He's Almut. Almut is a star. She's the person, and he adores that about her and understands that and cherishes that about her, and he's not threatened by that. And that felt really interesting, and I think it's very truthful what Andrew has done. And I felt that, you know, Florence, who's such an extraordinary actor, has breathed life into this sort of ambition and energy of Almut and fearlessness in a way that was also really rather exciting. But it's surprising that it's still quite a fresh thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it seems to be.
Would you say that one of the reasons for the success of this movie, because we're all loving it, is that we can feel your emotional commitment and the emotional commitment of Andrew and Florence and the whole cast?
I would hope so. It's very, very hard to make a film, for me at any rate, unless you really emotionally feel it, and that you then have your compass, which is it's either truthful emotion or it's fake emotion. And with two extraordinary actors and a beautiful piece of writing, my job is to really conduct the whole thing in a way that feels authentic and truthful and real. And there are some films, and I love watching them, which are more like studies in form, or they're like about ideas, or they are about genres. And this is not that. This is about emotional, human, relatable truthfulness, and about trying to get a feeling of what it is like in the viewer's head and heart, that they can look at the screen and go, yeah, I know what that feels like. Even if they haven't been through what those characters are going through, they feel it.
What were the joys, opportunities, or difficulties of having a non-linear timeline?
I mean, the joy is when I now watch it with an audience, because it's not there to confuse anybody. There's a generosity to it. There's a playfulness to it. And when you can feel an audience at a certain point in the film going, okay, and beginning to piece things together, that's great fun. And the difficulties it was a long edit. So, you know, when you have a non-linear timeline and three different timelines running against each other, the number of editorial choices you can make are sort of infinite. So it took a long time for us to break everything apart and put it back together in the edit, and to try and refine it in a way that you would be just ahead of an audience but not losing them fully.
One last thing, how did you manage to make a film that is both very profound and, in a way, metaphysical, but at the same time very concrete, very terrain. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, it's the kind of film I would want to watch. So that's the first thing, is you can put your head and your heart into it. It was a beautiful piece of writing by Nick Payne, who's a wonderful playwright. And we have two extraordinary actors who really wanted to travel to the heart of every scene that we were working on. So that meant that the work was all pointing towards the same destination, which was something truthful, but not necessarily something which would just make an audience feel sad and leave them feeling sad, because part of what's very important in this film is the lightness of touch, is the humor. And we worked very hard to make sure that that would always be available in those scenes. So in the scenes which are potentially very, very dark or sad, there's always a moment of levity. And that being able to play between those two poles, that's what life is just because sad things happen in life doesn't mean people lose their senses of humor or that absurdity stops. So, and if you begin to see that life is rich and complex and absurd and funny, that's the full mix.
It can happen that you give birth in a loo, I mean.
Or many other places. Yeah, life has lots of ideas. You can plan all you want, but life usually has a sense of humor in the way it allows things to unfold.
Thank you so much, John Crowley, for talking about We Live in Time, screening at the 19th edition of Rome Film Festival. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
And this is Chiara Nicoletti for Fred, the Festival Insider.